Salut everyone! Have you ever dreamed about a rolling edge distribution based on Ubuntu? Without Snap? Like that's a big one. Without Snap? Well, Rhino Linux is here for you. Let's get into it. As always, we're gonna start with a little bit of context. Rhino Linux comes with a lot of promises. The vision of the distro is actually pretty crazy. It's an Ubuntu rolling edge distribution. And every type of package you want to install on top of this is going to be fulfilled with a different package manager source. So you could use Pacstall, which is the one which is really pushed forward in the distro, but you could also use Flatpak, you could use AppImage, and they kind of envelope everything into a nice, cute little distro. So now I'll mention the magic word, Pacstall. If you never heard about Pacstall, it's kind of like the equivalent of the AUR when it comes to Debian and Ubuntu-based distro. It's a repository maintained by the community with custom scripts to install the applications which are not available on Debian repo or Ubuntu repo. And yes, I have to say Pacstall is pretty awesome, but it comes with some caveats, and we will talk about it later. On top of that, they have a support for different architecture. I'm thinking about ARM64. If you want to install this distro on a Raspberry Pi or a Pine 64 phone, you can actually do it. And I think this is pretty neat. And they also have another approach where you can install the distro within a Docker image. Last point I want to mention, when we are talking about the whole vision of the distro, is the fact that this distro is more oriented toward coder, developer. It's not a gaming Linux distro. But from my perspective, when I look at the promise, an Ubuntu without Snap, which is based on the dev repo of Ubuntu, I'm like, okay, we have something here, definitively, and something which could be really aligned with the need of a gamer or a content creator. So in this first part, like always, I'm going to talk about what is really good about this distro. And the first point I want to mention is the fact that there is no Snap. And, Ubuntu for the latest years has been doing a lot in terms of improving the installation process and also the way Snap is implemented. Snap is what it is, but you have to admit that Snap from Ubuntu is getting better by the day, but it's still not there, in my opinion, at least for my usage. And the fact that you could have access to Ubuntu stripped of Snap, which is, in my opinion, the biggest no-go, it's actually a dream coming true. Now, when it comes to the install, I mentioned earlier, Rhino Linux was super easy to install. It's a basic Calamares install. I had no issue booting the ISO from my Ventoy key. Everything went well. I'm mentioning again, I'm not doing any virtual machine install. I installed it on my 9800 X3D plus my 4090, and everything went smooth. I had a little error message at the end, but everything was working well when I reboot into the distro. And I have to say that was pretty slick. Another point which is really good towards this distribution is the fact that it's delivered with a welcome app. Most of the custom distro nowadays, they come with this little hello or welcome app that will pop up when you install the distro for the first time. I really appreciate it because it puts you right away in the world into Rhino Linux. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit deeper there, but the idea is that this distro is based on the official repo, the dev repo of Ubuntu, which are the equivalent of the seed repo on Debian, for example. And those repos come directly from Ubuntu. There is no repacking, there is nothing. And on top of that, you can add everything you want on top of this rolling edge Ubuntu-based distro. And the welcome app right away push you to add extra package manager. So you could use, for example, Flatpak, you could use Nix, you could reinstall Snap if you want, and you can also add AppImage. And you will see why it's important on the next point. But the idea is right off the bat, you have the option to customize the way you're gonna live your experience on the distro. The second part I want to mention is because it's definitively oriented toward dev, you also have, like, through the GUI, the opportunity to install like some containerization application, whether you want to do virtual machine or LXC or, you know, Dockers or whatever. You're gonna have everything ready to install. So they have like Docker, Podman, DistroBox, QEMU, like VirtualBox, all the good stuff for you to containerize whatever you're gonna develop into, and, you know, do your thing in your little container. But you get the idea, right? You don't have to play with your main operating system. You have that, which is giving you on a plate just after the installation. Also, on top of that, they have another application, which is kind of like a GUI updater. It's called Your System. You click on it, you have a little recap of your system, and you have a button to upgrade, like that you don't have to open a terminal. I think it's a nice little added feature, but for the type of user the distribution is really like looking toward, I'm not sure a lot of those power users will use the little GUI to update, but why not? It's there and it's cute. Now, the big, in my opinion, like the best part of this distro is related to the application called Rhino-PKG or RPK. And this is a package manager wrapper. What it means that by using this command in the terminal, it kind of like wrap all the different extra package manager you have installed on your machine. So let me explain. Let's say you want to install Steam. You're going to type rpk space install Steam, and then you're going to have a list of the different options you can go through to install Steam. So you're going to have the source from apt, from the official repo from Ubuntu. You're going to have the source from Pacstall, and we'll talk about it after. And you're going to have the source from Flatpak, AppImage, even Snap. Whatever source that could fulfill your need will be available. I think it's really nice. The implementation is really cool. I like the way it works. I like the speed it goes. I think the wrapper itself is really, really nice. And it will be, in my opinion, like my kind of like little like coup de cœur. I don't know the name in English, but this is the feature I like the most in this distro. Because when you search a package, you have everything like popping up at one like specific like location, and you just have to go through it. You don't have to open like multiple applications to see where and from what you could install like what you are looking for. So RPK, that's a really good one. And the other feature that I believe we really need to talk about in the good point for Rhino Linux is their desktop environment based on XFCE called Unicorn. And this one is, when it comes to the workflow, is, in my opinion, pretty good. So I know this is really a matter of the way you work on your PC, what type of workflow you have. But I've always had like a big crush with XFCE itself, and the way they kind of implemented with the management of desktop, the specific like research bar they use. I think it's called ULauncher. Like everything is set up in a way that if you already have this workflow, you're gonna be good to go. However, I also believe like the way it's set up can be a huge like cleavage between people who love it and people who doesn't love it. And now we're gonna get into the negative related to the distro. The way it's set up in terms of workflow could be a big negative if as a user you are not used to that. So it's kind of a mix between like a Windows manager and a non-Windows manager and GNOME. Like I think the approach is really specific for a certain type of usage. And there is a high chance that you might love it, but there is also a high chance you're gonna hate it. To me, I was kind of okay with the workflow itself. When it comes to the theming, and again, it's super subjective, it's just my point there, but the theming for me is just a no-go. I like purple. I think their design itself is really nice, but I just don't like how it come out on my screen. You know, it kind of makes me think about the experience you would have on Garuda, Dragon Eyes. It's like you're in this type of relation where you love it or you hate it. And for a developing like environment, I think it's not like, calm enough. Like there is too much saturation in terms of the colors. There is too much things that I just don't like. The other issue I had is like, because everything is already customized to someone else's vision, you might have extra work to, you know, recalibrate everything, like remapping the key you want to actually use. So for example, like some of the basic things that are really common between all the desktop environment, like super left and right to move the window left and right on your screen, or control shift and plus to make the size of your font bigger in a terminal. Like there is a lot of like shortcuts that I couldn't find them. So you're gonna have to go into the dock or go into the settings to see exactly what they are. And this, I think, is like customization is good, but too much customization can be, you know, a little problem. Again, like this is really personal. You might love it. And I put it in the negative, but this is really subjective to me. Don't judge the distro on that, because it's just my perspective. Now, something more objective is related to XFCE. Even if I really like XFCE, right now, XFCE is kind of behind. They are still in beta or alpha for the support of Wayland and all the features related to Wayland, which means that you're going to get stuck on X11. Is there a way to run Wayland? Certainly, but I wouldn't advise it as I'm recording this video middle of February 2025. Wayland on XFCE is just not there, especially when it comes to gaming. I did try it like 1 month ago and I was not like super impressed. They still have a lot of work to do. They're gonna get there for sure. Maybe when you watch this video, everything is gonna be fine. But right now, running Wayland on XFCE, it's kind of rough. And by that, I also mean that all the features related to Wayland, like HDR, like the safety, security, everything related to Wayland, you won't have access to. Multi-monitor with different refresh rate, etc., etc. But you know the limitation of X11. Well, you won't have access to them, and to me, it's kind of a negative in 2025. Now, let's talk about the other negative related to Pacstall. And Pacstall caused a lot of issue while I was live testing the distro. So I'm going to put the link in the description below of the full stream. I think I spent like 5 hours on it. I also spent extra time on the distro outside of the stream, offline. I also went and touched base with the developer on their Discord of Rhino Linux to try to understand like what was going on. So Pacstall right now, when you install the script, some of the scripts, they might not be super adapted to Rhino Linux. And I had some issue related to dependency. I couldn't play some x264 content within Firefox using like the Pacstall script. So Firefox installed with Pacstall was not working. I uninstalled it, installed it via Flatpak, and it was working, no problem. Same with Steam. Steam, I couldn't launch certain game. I would say like most of the game on Steam installed via Pacstall, but I could launch them without any issue while using Flatpak. So the concern here is certainly like related to dependency. I touched base with them. They were super active. They're going to create tickets within the Pacstall community to fix those issues. Again, I believe this distro is not really oriented for gamer. So, you know, I wouldn't be so hard with them. But if you are a gamer and you jump into it, it might not be a smooth experience compared to other distros which are like dedicated to gaming. So you're going to tell me like, yeah, Max, it's obvious. But when I see the concept, when I see the vision of the distro, I'm like, man, this distro will be perfect for gamer. But again, there is some polish that need to be done when you use Pacstall for some of those applications. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a lot of work. So maybe when you watch this video, it's going to be solved. But I believe in the team and they seem super active. So hopefully it's going to be close, but you know, as a reviewer, I need to share you like the real experience, right? And yes, Pacstall for me was a miss. Now the other point is related to the wiki. They have a pretty solid wiki. However, I believe like you need also like a little bit of work. And for example, like installing my NVIDIA driver, the command itself was not installing like the full pack of the driver, but just the base driver. Again, it's a little details, but if you come from Windows and you look at this distro, you think it's cool, you're gonna have to still like dig really deep and learn about like the universe of Ubuntu, maybe ask questions on their Discord, because I think for a beginner, the wiki is not like solid enough. So I know, again, it's a distribution for programmer, and I'm expecting like the programmer to know all the package related to Ubuntu when it comes to install things. But for example, like me, I got a little bit lost in the sauce while installing the driver, because the wiki was kind of like pushing me in a direction which was not the right one. I still did it, but then I noticed it was not what I was supposed to do. So yes, keep that in mind. You need a little bit of work on the wiki, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to, update it after some of your feedback and feedback from the community when the distro grows. All right, so how do we conclude this one? This is the third or fourth time I'm trying to give a fair conclusion on this distro, and I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy because I really like the concept of the distro, but I think the distro itself is not mature enough for, a production or, a gamer use on a daily basis. It's not there yet. However, I did touch base with the dev and they were super active. So I think that they're going to be able to polish it if they have enough users who give them, a polite feedback. So my recommendation right now is that, if you want something solid to game, this is not the one. Okay, this is not the one because you're going to have to use Flatpak, but then you are in this position where, you are forced into XFCE, you are forced into Ubuntu with a dev repo, and you still have to use Flatpak. So maybe you should have, just installed Debian, choose your DE and install Flatpak on top of it. Why would you go with Rhino Linux, right? Like, I think what makes the really strength of Rhino Linux is obviously the rolling edge approach, but also Pacstall, because if you start to use Flatpak on top of it, you kind of miss the point of the pure rolling edge. But again, this is just my perspective on it. Again, I can't recommend it as it is right now for a daily driver for gaming and content creation. But if you are into the concept and you want to help the team to get there, it's definitively a good distro for this specific purpose. I do believe that 6 months, 9 months from now, we're gonna have a way polished approach. When it comes to the theming and the XFC and Unicorn, the concept they are trying to push there, it's kind of divisive, and I think it's playing a little bit against them. My recommendation towards the dev team, if you watch this video, would be to maybe add, the opportunity to just have KDE or GNOME as an option within Calamares. Like that, the user could, enjoy the Unicorn approach, which is your vision of what Rhino Linux should be, but also, give an alternative. Like that, there is maybe more people who might be interesting into this Ubuntu rolling edge, and they won't feel the limitation as XFCE as it is now. So yeah, that's it. That's all. I hope I didn't sound like I'm bashing the distro. I think there is a lot of good thing going on for it, but yeah, it's not there yet. Not there yet, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you learned something, don't forget to give a thumb up to this video. If you want to support the channel financially, I have a Patreon, I have a YouTube membership, or direct donation on PayPal. Guys, thank you very much for all of you who watched the video. Thank you very much to all of you who supported this channel financially. I wouldn't be here without you guys. Thank you very much, and see you in the next one. Bisous, bisous.